So, dear James, how would you describe with a few words 2 to 1 a song such as Climate Change suggests you are touching some current topics, even though it's a good old-fashioned guitar album?
Yeah, well, I think that's the two are not necessarily exclusive. So the approach we took to recording the album was a good old fashioned guitar album, and so we recorded it simply. I produced the album, and I didn't want to add too much production to it. I just wanted it to be very simple. But with that said, I think the several of the lyrics in the songs are things that are relevant to now,
Yeah.
and so it can be both things.
How did this collaboration with Dennis Tech took shape over the years?
Well, I I first met Dennis when we did the tribute show for Ron Ashton.
Mhm.
And Dennis had known Ron Ashton, and so he was, asked to play some of the songs. And so then later I found out that he actually spent a lot of time in Hawaii, which I also do. And so we, became more friends just by virtue of being on the same island. At some point we decided to do, or I was going to do, and I asked him to sing on the EP Acoustic KO that I did, which was basically acoustic versions of 4 or 5 different songs that I had written with Iggy over the years. And so we did Acoustic KO, and that was fun. It came out well. And then I ended up playing on several different cuts for Cleopatra Records. So I did Devil with a Blue Dress for Mitch Ryder's song, and I did Leader of the Pack for a Terry Curry. So I got to know Matt Green at Cleopatra pretty well. And along the way, he asked me if I was interested in doing another album with Dennis Tech, and of electric songs and original ones. And so I considered it, and I discussed it with Dennis, and we decided, okay, let's do it. And that's really how it came to be.
What can you tell us about the beautiful physical formats of the album? How do you consider them in this weird digital age?
Well, I think that it's at least from our perspective, vinyl is of course essential these days because everyone wants to hear vinyl versions. And on the other hand, CD outsells vinyl by quite a large amount, and so it's kind of the universal format, if you will. So even though a lot of people will buy vinyl because they love it, but they won't even play the vinyl. They keep that and they play the CD, or they rip the CD or whatever. And of course there is streaming, which is probably what you were referring to. But all of those things are available for this record.
Once the sanitary emergency will be over, are you going to plan a tour with Dennis to promote the album?
I'm not sure. This is really more of a project.
Okay.
And so I kind of hung up my touring shoes a while ago, but I should never say never because, things can change and so on, but I don't have one planned at the moment. And it's kind of a moot point anyway, because I don't know when anybody's going to be touring for a while.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Can you tell us some some highlights and some bad moments related to the Detroit days way back in the 70s. Was there actually a precise musical scene?
Oh, very definitely. In the 70s, well, of course, I wasn't there too long in the 70s, but in the 60s for sure, the late 60s, music was the lifeblood of Detroit. I mean, not only the Motown sound, but then moving into the British invasion kind of bands that, like Mitch Ryder or like Bob Seger or like MC5, and then the Stooges. And so there was, I mean, everybody just spent all their time at the places in town where the bands would play, like the Grandy Ballroom or the East Town Ballroom or whatever. And the bands were good too. And so if you were coming up in a band, you needed to be good too, or you would be treated very poorly because people didn't want to waste their time or money on bands that couldn't play as good as the ones that were all around. So it was very, very definitely a good music scene, and you heard a lot of good bands.
Are you still in touch with Iggy? And how was he as a musician and as a man outside of music?
Well, I'm not in touch with him. I think that, altogether, we probably played together for at least 10 years, back in the day, and then with the reunions and stuff. And so we pretty much said everything we had to say to each other. So we don't have any, sometimes, occasionally, if something about a song that we wrote together or whatever comes up with publishing or whatever, and we'll have to talk about it. But other than that, we don't have any commonality. I think that the Iggy's real talent, in my view, is his ability to write lyrics. I think he's one of the best in terms of that, and he also had some good musical ideas. But in our working relationship, I wrote all the music, and so at first he helped me to arrange some things, but then later, really not even that. So he just wrote the lyrics. I'd give him the music, and he would make up the lyrics.
Which are your memories of the Ashton brothers?
Well, that Ron Ashton was the first of them that I got to actually know. The band that I had started with another guy named Scott Richardson called The Chosen Few. After a while, I wasn't in the band anymore because I got in lots of trouble. But eventually, when they had a lineup change, the bass player became Ron Ashton, and so I got to meet him that way at a gig one time when I happened to be in town, and they were playing at a fraternity party in Ann Arbor, and he was a great guy, very, very, very funny guy, actually. He did, like, he could make his own little comic books, and he was very funny. Scotty, I did not know really until years later, when they had already become a band, and I moved up to Ann Arbor, and he ended up being first a roommate in a house we had together, and then also a roommate eventually in a rental, a kind of a condo thing that we had. So I got to know him pretty well that way, and of course Scotty's a great guy too. So really, they all have their own personalities, but I think they were good guys.
Which advices would you give to young bands who want to play straight-in-your-face rock and roll in these damn difficult days for such kind of music?
Yeah, I don't know what to say. If you've got it in your blood, then you'll play it, no matter what anybody else says. But the trouble is, these days the music has turned into something completely different from that. I mean, to me, that is like real music, and the new stuff is just like kind of like fake music. I don't know. It's not really, doesn't do anything for me. Let's put it that way. But it's not for me. They don't write it for me. They write it for young people. So, who am I to judge?
Do you have any memory related to Italy somehow?
Oh, I have many, many memories related to Italy. I love Italy, and the band, when I was in the Reunited Stooges, we went to Italy many times, played Italy many times, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I also, just aside from the band, in my personal life, I've visited Italy many times as well.
Okay.
Some of my favorite places are like, Lake Como or Milano, or there's too many of them to really even mention. It's just an amazing place. I just love the place.
So, which final greeting would you send out to the Italian fans, and an invitation to buy 2-1?
Yeah, well, I would hope that they do buy 2-1, and I think it's a really solid rock and roll record, and it's something that I'd love to see every Italian have a copy of.